Hello, readers. Welcome to 20 Questions with Your Favorite Author, where we ask author important questions like, why would you agree to be on this podcast? I'm Kelly Lynn Colby, editorial director at Cursed Dragon Ship Publishing. Our guest this week is Jon R. Osborne, military sci-fi writer and beer connoisseur. Jon's second book in the Milesian Accords modern fantasy trilogy, A Tempered Warrior, was a 2018 Dragon Awards finalist. Jon resides in Indianapolis, where he plays role-playing games, writes science fiction and fantasy, and extols the virtues of beer. If he's not your favorite now, he will be after. Good evening, Jon. Welcome to the podcast.
Good evening. Thank you.
It's nice to have you here. I like that
here.
Extolling the virtues of beer. I mean, we kind of have a beer connoisseur on the CDS ship as well. Our tech guy, Zafo, is very much into the beer. He was actually just at his buddy's house cleaning equipment because they're brewing this week.
Ooh, that's fun. I have a friend that's a brewer too, and I like to help mainly by quality control.
Oh, that's fair. I mean, that's an important job. Someone has to do it. So I'm wondering, do you have a favorite brewery?
I would have to say probably my local favorite is Sun King Brewery. Their Scottish Ale Weemac is my go-to beer.
Ooh.
I have a friend, when we go to a bar, she kids me because every time I decide to try something new, they'll be, sorry, we're out. All right, fine, give me a Weemac. And she's like, why did you bother? You knew we were going to get a Weemac anyway. Well,
because you got to keep trying, man. What's the point? I mean, how can you be a good quality controller if you don't try lots of different kinds of beer?
That's right.
That's right. Is there a brewery that you really want to visit that you haven't been to yet?
Ooh, I want to visit the Guinness Brewery in Ireland because I didn't get in there when I was a kid. Well, when I say kid, in college. And I was actually in Dublin, and for some reason, never got on my radar to go to the brewery. But back then, I was a college kid, so I was drinking, Miller Lite or whatever we could,
whatever was cheapest, right?
Right.
Not so much connoisseur at that time. It leads to it. That's awesome. No, Guinness would be great. That's on our list too. Is there anywhere in the world you'd like to travel that you haven't been to yet?
That I haven't been, Scotland, and the Isle of Skye.
The Isle where?
Isle of Skye in Scotland.
Oh, gotcha. Yes. That would be beautiful. I mean, if you hit it the right time of year, otherwise it's just rainy.
Yes, and I'd like to visit probably some local distilleries up there.
I was going to say you have to like whiskey for that, right?
Yes, I do like whiskey. Although I talk a lot about beer, I do enjoy a bit of whiskey as well. A little writer's fuel.
Very nice. It's a good thing to celebrate with. The beer gets you through the book, and the whiskey celebrates. I finally finished it.
That's right.
I like it. Yeah, Friday Blue wants to know if you've ever tried Shiner Bock.
Yes.
Yeah, we call, Jenny, at least around here, we call Shiner Bock the gateway beer. It's like the one if all you've had was like Miller Lite and Bud Light and that kind of thing. The thing that at least my husband and Henry call water. So I don't know what kind of beer snob you are. That's what kind of beer snob they are. And so they call Shiner Bock as like, that you have that and you're like, wait, beer can have flavor? And then you start trying all these other beers.
Well, yeah. Shiner just had a candied pecan nut brown.
Ooh.
That I shared with a friend over Christmas.
Yeah, that sounds like one to share, not one to just sit and sip.
Yeah, I mean, well, it wasn't as heavy as I was afraid it was going to be because sometimes these flavored beers, especially like the sweeter ones, they get a little too heavy and cloying. And but this was a good nut brown. They didn't get carried away with the flavor, so while it was there, it wasn't overwhelming. It didn't fill you up. Because although I prefer dark beers, a beer you can chew, as I put it, sometimes they can fill you up.
Yes, you're like, one, I'll just have one. No, honestly, officer, I only had one. It was a Guinness. That's all I could take. Well, speaking of journeys, did you begin as a professional writer, or were there side roads to this end goal?
Oh, there wasn't just side roads. There was like a whole map. I didn't get published till I was 51.
Excellent. It's never too late.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I tell people. It's never too late. I poked around with writing ever since I was in college. In fact, my friend and I, we wrote our first, our D&D campaign is my first book, and it was awful. It will never see the light of day.
It's a first book, man. That's what happens.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm,
I mean,
mm-hmm.
it was fun,
Mm-hmm.
and I wrote part of it while I was actually traveling in Europe, which because when you're riding on a train and you're somewhere where there's no scenery, well, you break out the notebook.
That's right. And it makes you feel like a real author.
That's right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Well, how long did it take you to write that first book?
The first one that got published, or like that one that shall not be named.
Let's do both.
So the one that I did in college, I want to say started it my junior year, probably finished it sometime during my senior year, and then
Mm-hmm.
promptly forgot about it.
Mm. Then real life came in.
Well, yeah. Um, I mean, I was a journalism major that never
Mm.
went into journalism.
Hmm. You knew you wanted to write. It was in your blood.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went to school for journalism, on a scholarship. That's part of the deal with my mom is to go where I went, I had to get a scholarship, so I did. Um, and actually, I went in for writing, then got into a snit with my professor. I want to say my junior year also over a story, and
Oh
switched to
no.
advertising and public relations,
There's more money in it anyways,
which
right?
still
I mean,
counts
come
as a journalism degree,
on. Nice, nice.
but also still pays just as little when you get out of college.
Need experience, man. Experience.
And really, I mean, to go into that career, I would have had to move to a big market probably.
Very likely. Very likely. It's hard to live that lifestyle without being in the big market, right? I mean, I've seen Mad Men. I know how it works.
Yep.
Yeah.
But so, gaming was actually my outlet for storytelling.
Oh, nice. That's a great way to start. So how, in what way, because it said in your bio that you love role-playing games. How did that inspire your writing?
Well, I mean, actually, well, like I said, the first book that I ever did was, based on a campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I was about 13, I just decided one day I wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons. So I went out, bought a box set, taught myself how to play, and then realized, well, I need other people to play. So I corralled my friends, taught them to play. And since it was my game, I had to be the dungeon master because they didn't know how to. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where it all started.
That's so fun. The bravery of a 13-year-old. I'm so impressed with your younger self. Sometimes it's scary, right? Just to dive in there. And you were like,
yeah.
nope, I'm doing this. I love it. I love it. So what authors have inspired you along the way?
Wow, let's see. Stephen Bruce, Charles DeLint, on the fantasy side.
Mm-hmm.
On the science fiction side, I read when I was a kid, Heinlein, Niven, some Asimov, and then going on into more popular, I went a lot of Alan Dean Foster.
Ooh, yes.
Who I really think it doesn't get you hear all these people talk about Larry Niven, Robert Heinlein, because they're the greats. Yeah, Foster put out a lot of stuff that a lot of people read, and it just kind of gets forgotten because I think because some of the stuff he did was novelizations.
Right.
In fact, I think the way I found him was his novelizations for Star Trek.
I think that's where I found him too. First time you saw him. It's one of those where you just see the Star Trek name. You don't necessarily see the author name until later.
Right.
Until you start to realize some Star Trek books are written better than others. Then you start to look at the authors.
Very true. Yes,
very true. But it takes when you're 11, you don't notice that. As you get older, then you start to notice that. Let's see. So we also have you. Which of your books challenge you the most and why?
I would say the military science fiction ones. So the ones I write in the Four Horsemen universe.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is, military science fiction. There's a heavy military aspect, and I never served.
Gotcha. I was wondering if you could write it if you hadn't served. Thank you for answering that. So how do you do your research?
Lots of stuff online and talking to people that have served.
Which is a lot of people on the Four Horsemen, so you've got a lot of resources there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Chris Kennedy, I mean, the publisher, he's a retired military. We've got a lot of military among the core authors. Kevin Eikenberry.
Kevin Eikenberry comes to mind. Yep.
Casey Azell.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the core author core.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a lot of resources I can go to and ask questions. Now, one of the advantages of the way the Four Horsemen universe is set up, since they're mercenaries as opposed to official mercenary, is our official military is we do get to play a little fast and loose.
Right. You could change the rules a little bit.
Right.
But it still has to feel like that they were military.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Very nice. That's cool. So you talked about Four Horsemen. Like, how did that happen? How did you get in with all these guys?
All right. So Mark Wandry and I were gaming buddies.
Okay.
Back starting around between 30 35 years ago, long time ago.
Wow.
Not too long after I got out of college, and he moved here from the West Coast. And we both went to this game club in Indianapolis and crossed paths there, started gaming together. And, we'd known each other, been friends since. And he likes to tell people he actually expected me to get published first. However, one of my big problems is I could never finish anything.
Yes, that's the trick, right?
I am really good at starting projects and coming up with ideas. I'm really bad about finishing things. Mark, on the other hand, he would finish projects, and then he started getting published. And at a convention here in Indy called In Conjunction, I met up with him because he was going, and he was telling me about his idea for the Four Horsemen universe, and that he was going to pitch it to Chris. And he talked to Chris about it, like, I think the year before, and Chris didn't have time. And so Mark had just started writing it. And he had the first book either done or mostly done, and he gave Chris the manuscript. And it's kind of funny because I just happened to run into Chris at breakfast, and Chris goes, "You know what? I'm gonna mess with Mark."
Uh-oh.
And he told me what he was going to do. And so, he meets Mark and he goes, "I read your manuscript last night and I got some bad news." Mark's like, "Oh, he didn't like it." He said, "Yeah, I like it so much I want to write in it."
Oh, nice.
And so that was the genesis of the Four Horsemen universe becoming a multi-author thing. So they did the first 4 books.
That's so cool.
The four horsemen units: the Cartwright's Cavaliers, Asbrand Solutions, the Winged Hussars, and the Golden Horde. And as they were getting into the second pair of books, they realized that they wanted to expand the universe. And they decided a good way to do this would be to kind of open up as a sandbox and have an anthology of short stories.
Nice.
That way you'd have a bunch of different authors possibly going into parts of the universe that, weren't just the 4, core mercenary units. And Mark told me about it, and he's like, "All right, look, Chris has said if you submit a story, he'll take a look at it. No guarantees about it getting published or anything, but he will. He said he'll read it and he'll take a look at it." And he's like, "It's a short story. It's 8,000 words. You can finish that."
Yeah, do it. You can do it.
And so I did. And at that same breakfast, I'd pitched Chris the Milesian Accords, or the first book, A Reluctant Druid. And he's like, "Yeah, that's something I'd like to read, but obviously I'd never been published before or anything like that." So that's where that ended. And then I turned to my short story, and at LibertyCon, I met with him, and he goes, "All right, if your book's as good as your short story, I'll publish it."
Ooh. You're like, fingers crossed.
So
did you have the book done yet?
I think I did.
Sweet.
I think I had it on a flash drive with me.
Oh, so clever.
But yeah, so that's how I got in, and that's why I tell a lot of hopeful writers is, because a lot of people, they get hung up on, I have to finish a novel, I have to write a novel, I have to get a novel published. No, you don't, because short stories make a great audition.
Yes.
And so my short story, which started the whole Bjorn's Berserker storyline, was my audition to Chris Kennedy Publishing, as well as the Four Horsemen universe. And a lot of our authors have gotten in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, one of my authors, Keisto Healy, got into ours that way. I'm publishing 2 of his series now, and I found him through a short story as well.
And one of the big things with Chris Kennedy Publishing is that with almost all their anthologies, they have a few slots open for new writers.
They leave it open. Keep your eyes open. Get in the door. I like it. It's very clever. Very clever. So didn't the whole company go camping a couple months ago?
So we had what we call Factory Con.
Factory Con.
Yes. we went to a KOA campground on the North Carolina Inner Banks.
Uh-huh.
Although I think the campground bills itself as Outer Banks, it really is the Inner Banks. But I mean, we rented out like a bunch of cabins, and some of our authors are RVers, so they brought their RVs, and
Nice.
we had, say, it was like 100, 150 people there.
That's glorious.
Um, and we spent a few days together, cooking out and hanging out. We had an author's like little mini author day during the middle of the day, I think on Saturday, where we all broke out our books, and we would like sell books and sign books for people and stuff like that. No, it was on Friday, because Saturday I ran a play test for the RPG for the Four Horsemen universe.
Oh, fun. I heard about that. That looks like so much fun.
It is. In fact, that's what I am crunching on currently, because I'd finished my last book,
mm-hmm.
and my day job is wrapped up for the year, and so now so right now I'm on vacation, and then the first part of the year is a little bit slower at my day job, so I'm like trying to hammer out the rest of this RPG.
It's so cool.
'Cause,
I've seen some of the card samples; they're gorgeous.
And well, we came up with we had a Kickstarter,
mm-hmm.
and we ended up with a good problem, in that the Kickstarter did so well that we hit our stretch goals to make the book thicker, so more pages, and we found a printer that's different from the original printer, and the way they do their pricing,
mm-hmm.
the pricing would be the same for a full 8.5 by 11 book as it would be for the original 7.5 by 10 format.
Interesting.
And it's like, well, okay, because they just do like small, medium, large.
Mm-hmm.
And the original format we were going to use is the exact smallest they go for large.
Gotcha.
And we're like, well, if we're going to do that, it
mm-hmm.
makes sense to just go ahead and go to a full size 8.5 by 11 book. That gives us more real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's more book to fill than we thought.
Oh no.
But like I said, it's a good problem to have, which means that we have to go into a lot more detail.
Mm-hmm.
We're adding more playable races. The races, they get bigger sections. Originally, the race, each race was going to have about half a page, and now each race gets a 2-page spread.
Oh, it's so much fun. I'm really excited about that. We're going to have to look into it. Kevin wants to know, how is it different from making a world for a book as opposed to intentionally creating a world for a shared universe? That's a very good question.
Yeah, it is a very good question. And one of the things that we've learned over the years is there's a lot more moving parts. When you have, over a dozen novelists and literally dozens of authors writing material in a universe.
Mm-hmm. How do you keep track? Yeah.
We have a master file. We have a wiki that is woefully way behind. And one of the challenges actually with the RPG was I'm having to consolidate this information and kind of establish a canon. For example, how big certain alien races are. We've had alien race, the same race, described as everywhere from, a small, something you hold in your hand to being a meter tall. Because different authors have different takes on it.
Right. So if people are reading between the books, then they're like, wait a minute, but I thought this alien.
Right. It's like, wait, weren't they smaller in another book?
Yeah, that would be the hard part, keeping track of all that.
What I use is the term unreliable alien narrators.
Oh, nice. Clever. Wave your hands quickly. Wave your hands quickly. I love it.
Because the cover art, I love our cover art, but if you look at it, there's no way a person would actually like physically fit in that suit.
Okay.
The hips are too far apart, and the shoulders are, even a humongous linebacker, their shoulders just don't go out that far.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never even thought about it.
So so when people say, well, that doesn't look right, and I say, unreliable alien narrators. That's how they describe them.
Interesting.
Now, and one of the things we're doing as we commission art for the game is coming up with art where the person really could fit in the suit. And that's a challenge for the artists, is to keep, because the Caspers, the armored suits, they have a very distinctive look to them. So we want it to be recognizable when people go, oh, that's a Casper. But we also want it to look like that, yes, a person really could climb in one and
put their arms and legs in the leg places. Yeah.
Right.
Interesting. Reality and fantasy, man, it's hard to make them work together.
Yes. Well, actually, the fantasy side is easier. It's
That's
magic.
True. It's just because I said so. That's really cool. So what did you gain from the whole team building thing when y'all went out there?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of just, networking, camaraderie. The core author group is, really close. We're kind of like a family.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us get together and it just started with the whole pandemic. We started getting together on Zoom on Saturdays.
Oh, that's clever.
We have what we call the Peacemaker Cantina. Peacemakers are like the law keepers in the Four Horsemen universe.
Huh.
And no surprise, Stallings is the instigator behind it.
Not surprised.
But yeah, so we've been getting together every weekend for that. And, we put together a anthology, not Four Horsemen universe, just an anthology of stories from that cantina.
Just from hanging out and talking about stuff?
Yes, because we were just bantering back and forth, and the term came of, and then it got weird. Because someone was telling a story and paused, and someone else goes, and then it got weird. And then we started joking around with story ideas of, and then it got weird. And then someone's like, this could be an anthology.
Yeah. Is that what you called it? Because that's a great name for an anthology.
Yes, the anthology is, and then it got weird. It's on Amazon.
Awesome. That makes me happy.
I have a story in it, totally unrelated to any of my other works.
But it's in that universe, so it's just not the characters you write for this universe.
Oh, well, if the story, and then it got weird, totally its own universe, everything.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
It's totally a one-off. There's a lot of that in there, although I think a couple people, a lot of us authors like to seed novel ideas in short stories.
Mm-hmm.
And in the case of my story, I did not do that this time. With Bjorn's Berserkers, obviously I seeded that for a novel potential. And luckily it was well received, and so I did get to do novels on that.
Well, that was kind of an audition, so it made sense for that one.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very clever. I like it. That's why I ask a lot of authors that do short stories, why do you do them? And that is a great reason right there.
Well, between the whole audition thing, it's an opportunity to reach new readers.
Mm-hmm.
So, readers that may not have, read my Milesian Accord stories or my Four Horsemen universe stories, if they pick up this and then it got weird anthology, they may like my story, Burning Code, and go, hey, I like this author. What else has he written?
Yep, let's look him up. Let's see what's in there. That's the way to go. So what's the most interesting or craziest thing you've learned through your writing and publishing adventure?
Wow, crazy.
Yep, crazy or interesting. I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy.
I don't really say there's anything crazy. Starting at 51, I'm pretty mellow.
You're like, I've seen so much.
Even our whole Vegas thing for 20 books, wasn't wild and woolly.
You're like, nope, still not reaching it for me.
Yeah, I'm too old for that. We'd go down, hang out at the bar, and talk.
That's right. It's as adventuresome as we get. I
now,
feel ya.
One of the things I did learn becoming an author is that you actually have to do a lot of marketing as an author.
Yes.
And a lot of us authors, myself included, are introverts by nature.
Mm-hmm.
And
does not come
marketing
easy.
means talking to people.
Mm-hmm. Against our will most of the time.
Yeah, so when I started doing conventions and stuff, all of a sudden I had to be able to flip that switch and be able to talk to total strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Which my retail experience helped me with that.
Yes. I mean, that's basically what you're doing anyways, right? So if you can just remember that's what you're doing, except that you're also trying to sell a piece of yourself in the form of paper. So
well, yeah, I mean, really with marketing isn't as much about selling your physical books as it is selling yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because people tend to read authors they like.
Absolutely. I've never bought a book from an author that I didn't like the author. Not once. I've bought books, from the store that I didn't know the author. But when I'm at an event, I'm like, oh, I like that person. I think I will buy their book. Not once was I like, oh, I don't know that guy, and I'm not going to buy his book. Not going to do it. Sorry, the chat distracted me because Kevin said he never would have gotten to play in snow if it weren't for writing. And he's right, because he's from Florida, and when we went to Superstars together, like we went separately, but that's when I like got to actually like hang with him, and it was awesome. And it had snowed because it's in Colorado Springs, as you well know. And so there was snow on the ground, and he was so cute because he was like, "Look, snow." I'm like, we're from Chicago. We've seen a lot of snow.
Yeah. We have a term called lake effect snow.
And it's not so fun.
and what's funny is living down here in central Indiana, like what they call a storm, and they shut down the schools for, and everyone like empties the stores of eggs and milk and bread. We called lake effect snow.
Yeah, like it happens.
Like, can the buses get out of the parking lot? Yes. Okay, then we're having school.
That's right. But it might snow later. We'll clear it before they have to leave. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I remember waiting out for the bus in the snow with the snow up to my hip. Wasn't all the time, but I do remember that. Of course, I was wearing a skirt because I was a teenager and stupid, but that happens too. We had our times. Which is funny since I'm cold when it gets to 60 degrees now. I don't know how I survived then. Let's see. So craziest thing also, which book of all your creations is your favorite? Yes, I want you to choose your favorite.
Ooh, making me choose my favorite. Probably.
I am.
Well, it sounds like a cop-out, but my most recent one.
No, that's fair, I think. So what's your most recent one?
My most recent one is The House Between Worlds, which is the follow-up to the Milesian Accords trilogy.
Gotcha.
And one of the reasons why it's my favorite is because not only do I include some of my favorite characters, but I get to introduce new ones. And also I feel that I've progressed both as a storyteller and technically as a writer. So I think it's technically a better product. On my trip to Dragon Con, I was listening to the audiobook of A Reluctant Druid for the first time. And there was some wincing. It's like,
oh no.
Ooh, how many times did I use that word?
Right.
It's like, ooh, I would go back and do that differently. And
the audio hides nothing.
Oh yeah, and actually, I think that authors should listen to their books in audio.
Oh yeah.
Because it totally changes things. When I first got the sample for Reluctant Druid and I listened to it, I was just like, ooh. I'm like, Chris, can I go back and do some rewriting? And he's like, no.
It's like, nope, it's done. Next book.
And and then like when I talked to him about it again recently at 20K, he's like, well, if you're very careful, I guess you could, but that would be time I'm not spending doing new stuff. Plus, it's in the process of getting translated into German, so I really don't want to monkey with the text now.
It's true. Just be confusing. And let's face it, half the things that bother us, the readers don't recognize. They don't notice.
I mean, there's some of them, that I'm probably going at, and the readers just, go by. But one of the things that I did learn from listening to that audio sample is that now part of my editing process, when I finish a first draft, is I go through, and part of it is I'll have the computer read me the whole book.
Nice. I never have the patience for that.
Well,
I'm so proud of you.
Because when I read, my brain knows what I meant to write.
Right.
And it will like fill in missing words or words that aren't quite right. It'll fix them for me. But if I listen to it, it sticks out like a sore thumb. I'm like, wait a minute, what was that?
I'm missing something here. What's going on here? Yep. It is clever. It's definitely one of the recommendations if I only had the patience for it. But I do have to listen when the narrator reads it, right? So at least I catch some things then. But it's too late to rewrite at that point.
Yeah.
Too late. Move on. Keep going. Well, how do you, since you write in these multiple worlds, how do you decide what to write next?
Part of it depends on the publishing schedule. Being involved in a shared universe, there's going to be times when they need a novel at a certain time to fall within the braided storyline. So, for example, yeah, and Mark loves telling this story too. My first book, The Four Horsemen universe, When the Axe Falls, I pitched Mark the book idea at LibertyCon,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, "That's great. That would work in the Omega Wars, which was the current storyline at that time."
Gotcha.
And he's like, "We need to talk to Chris." And so we go and find Chris. This is at the party,
Mm-hmm.
because we had a book launch party at LibertyCon, and he's like, "All right, here, Chris, listen to this idea for book." And Chris is like, "Well, that's great, and it would work, but I'm going to need it sooner rather than later if we're going to get it into the Omega Wars, you know, and where it would need to fall in the story in the timeline." And I'm like, "Well, how soon would you need it?" And he's like, "Halloween." And this is LibertyCon, 4th of July weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark likes to say, like, and I think Chris does too, like that. I basically like, from when I look like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
It's like, as I'm doing the math in my head, this is the beginning of July. I have until the end of August, 100,000 words.
I would say these are not thin books either. Uh-huh.
And
100,000 good words. It has to be good by then.
I process it for a moment. I'm like, all right, I can do that.
Good for you. Oh, take notes. Don't say no. Just do it. That's why writing a short story I don't have time for. Don't say no. Just do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, what project that's in progress or not started are you most excited about?
Well, Rules of Engagement is what I'm really excited about right now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I'm learning is doing an RPG book is a ton more work than a novel.
How are you testing it?
So we've been having play test at conventions.
Okay.
In fact, like I mentioned at FactoryCon, we had a play test, and that was really good because I learned I needed to go back to some of my numbers because I'd made the armored suits a little too tough.
Gotcha. Yep.
And also, since I game every week, I can kind of like stealth test some of the system stuff because we got licensed to use Savage Worlds as the game system.
Okay.
And so I run a campaign every other week using Savage Worlds. So I can like, if I want to like try something new, I can kind of stick it in there, see how it works, and like, if it totally like knocks the wheels off the wagon, so to speak, then it's like, all right, we're not putting that in Rules of Engagement. Or if it like like, oh, that slows things down, it added 2 more rolls to every act, and then no, okay.
Yeah. Still has to be fun.
Yeah, it has to be fun, but it still has to go fast.
Yes. Yes. Well, fast.
Because one of the things that I've run into as a game designer, because I've dabbled with game design over, ever since I started playing.
Mm-hmm.
And my friends like say that I have never met a rule system that I haven't wanted to change.
Well, I think that's true of life too, right? There's some rules in life I'd like to change too. So totally with games.
And one of the things that I've learned is that I'll come up with an idea for a rule. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea. And then I'll chew on it. And then about 3/4 of the time, I'm like, it doesn't add enough to make it worth the hassle. I want speed factors based on weapons. Well, okay, do you want to have to do the calculation for initiative for every character based on what weapon they're using? And if they change weapons in combat, and it's like, all right, never mind.
You're like, this is too much. Too much. I'm over engineering it. We're going to leave that one out.
Yeah, my D&D campaign, I think we're on our 4th or 5th initiative system, so.
Ooh, you've been playing. That's really cool. I look forward to that. We'll have to have you back on when that one's out. Maybe you can come and guest DM for us. That would be fun.
Yeah, one of the things I did at a few conventions, including Gen Con, is I ran a Milesian Accord scenario.
Ooh.
Where I converted some characters from the books into D&D stats. And, set up a scenario, and the players played the characters from the books.
That would be awesome. Yeah, Florida Kevin says Savage Worlds is pretty streamlined. It's a very well-regarded system. He's a big player too. Awesome. That would be fun. I'm afraid I have no idea what Savage Worlds is. I'm still a newbie when it comes to this particular kind of gaming. It'll be fun. But I like making stuff up. So, I mean, come on now. That's half the fun, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, most gamers have like a zillion characters that they've made because it's cool to make characters that they never get around to playing.
Right? It's like there's not enough.
I had a friend, we swore at one point that he was just getting his characters killed off so he could like break a new one out.
So he could keep playing them. That's awesome. I mean, why not, right? Let's see. And now, I mean, we can do it all digitally. We don't even have to waste paper. This could totally work.
Yeah. One of the side effects of the virus is that we had to switch to playing online totally.
Yeah. Yep. That's what we've been doing. So with our old game we used to play, we did it online even before. So hopefully the new one will be awesome. We shall see. You have to watch and let us know what we're doing wrong.
Oh, I see. When it comes to gaming, it's hard to say someone's doing it wrong.
You mean I can't just kill everyone because they were making me mad? Can I just do that? Is that okay?
What's fun for one group might not be fun for another. But as long as that group's having fun, like if you're doing something and I don't like the way it works, but you are having fun, then who am I to say that it's wrong? If it works for you and you're having fun, then have at it.
Well, that's what I keep saying. I'm going to stress fun because I'm still learning all the mechanics. I'm stressing fun. And it's all writers on the podcast, on the role-playing game. So it'll be really fun to just see, if writers decide to follow any rules at all. So it'll be interesting.
Well, see, one of the things that I like to joke about is that my characters don't behave.
Yes. Well, that's true of writing too, right?
You think when you become a writer, well, as a dungeon master, it's notorious. The players go off the rails all the time. Right. You plan this meticulous adventure that you took hours and hours and hours building, and they decide to like chase some piece of flavor text to a different village because they want to see a gazebo. And it's like, it's just a gazebo.
You're like, I didn't even build anything for that village.
Be important. We're going to check it out. But the adventure. And so it's like when you become a writer, it's like, aha, all right. Well, now I can tell the characters what to do.
I shall control now.
And, at one point, I'm in a reluctant druid, I'm typing along, and I'm like, wait, why are you guys going back to the bar? You're not supposed to do that.
I know you're thirsty, but we need to move on.
You're supposed to be down at the bar. Why do you want to go back to the bar?
Because they're mercenaries. They always want to go to the bar. It's a rule. It's a thing. I feel that. Yeah, exactly. So I guess I shouldn't feel bad, fictional characters that I should have control of, I don't. So I certainly should not expect to have control of actual people. So that's right. It's just fun. And we have reached the lightning round.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So these are supposed to be fast questions. We shall see if they succeed. First, what is your... Yeah, you never know. What is your favorite holiday dish?
Pumpkin pie.
Oh, good choice. What is your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Chocolate chip peanut butter cup.
Ooh, yummy. If you could listen to only one band or artist for the rest of your life, who would it be?
John Williams.
Oh, good choice. Me too. If you could have your dream pet, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Actually,
it can be fictional too.
No, my cat that passed away a few years ago.
Aw, you want your kitty cat back. That's a good answer. What is your least favorite chore around the house?
Vacuuming.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Good choice. Get rid of all the carpets. That'll help. And where can fans find you and your work?
Amazon is the easiest place under Jon R. Osborne. Make sure to use the R.
And the E at the end?
Yes. You'd be surprised how many Jon Osbornes there are in the world. I have 2 others at my job.
Just at your job, let alone writing.
We get each other's emails all the time. All of us, Jon Osborne. We'll start to email. Hey, my fellow Oz's, I think I got your email.
This is one of y'all's. I don't know which. That's awesome. And you're on Facebook too, right?
On Facebook, at Jon R. Osborne. Instagram, at Jon R. Osborne. There's a theme there.
Very cool. Excellent. Well, now that Jon is your new favorite writer, please make sure to review his work and also review us wherever it is you get your podcast. You can also follow on Twitch or subscribe on YouTube. And what's the other thing? Oh, we're going to thank our subscribers, DH Dunn and Helen. Thank you so much for supporting us and keeping the lights on. And we will see you next week with Kevin Petway, because we have book 4 in his Misplaced Mercenaries releasing. We'll see you then.